since you're just starting biblical history, I'm going to go back in the history of my life a little bit. The part I want to share with you began in February of 1962. I flew from Fairbanks, Alaska, on my way to San Antonio, Texas, to begin training with the United States Air Force. So, en route, I stopped at Seattle-Tacoma Airport and gave my class ring to a young lady named Joy that I had met in Alaska. And then I went on to my training. And a few months later, I received orders to go to England, Woodbridge Air Base. So I chose a roundabout way to get there. I went back to Tacoma to visit Joy and spend time with her family. And my departure date was getting close. And I thought, man, I hate to go to England for a couple of years and her not be with me. So I decided to talk to her father about marrying her. And we had a talk, and he agreed. Oh, and she did also. But it had to be a quick wedding, so her mother and she and her sister began making wedding dresses and calling everybody and making arrangements. So we got married with a few days later in the middle of June of that year. And then a week later, I continued on my journey, coming through North Carolina to visit my family. And so Joy and I were separated for a few months because when you first start out, you won't have many stripes. I only had 2 at that time, I think. And the Air Force would not pay for her way to come with me because I wasn't high enough in rank. So after being in England for a few months, saving a little bit of money, demonstrating to my commanding officer that I was a responsible person, he agreed to allow her to come and join me, at my expense, of course. So being young, I thought 2 people can live just as cheap as one, you know, like, why not? None of you have ever thought that way, I imagine, have you? So anyway, she came and joined me, and those early months were difficult, and it was hard to make ends meet. But as I recall, we faced our first real test, and it was regarding tithing. You know, being in the military and being in a foreign country, my income was set. No chance for a second job to make a little extra money. And the expenses were pretty well set too because we were renting a place. And we had a 1937 Vauxhall that I had to work on every week to keep it running to get me back and forth to work. So at the beginning of November, I suddenly realized that by the end of the month, we were not going to be able to pay our tithe, buy groceries, pay our rent, and keep gas in the car. So the looming question was, are we going to pay our tithe? But that was only a question for a moment or two. You see, I had always tithed all my life. Joy had too, but I guess we had never really talked about it together. It had never been a problem until now. But when you come down to where there's not enough money to cover everything, you have to ask the questions. So it was just a moment or two, and we put our marker down. We said, no, the tithe will come out first, and we will live on what's left over, although we knew it wouldn't cover it. So as Thanksgiving approached, the chapel had a food drive, and they put a big box out to collect food and so forth. So as the time approached, I think it was the last Sunday of the collection, I went into our pantry to see if there's anything we could put in the box. We had maybe a half a dozen cans of food left. So I took 1 or 2 of them. I went to the chapel that day, and when nobody was looking, I put that can in the box because I was ashamed that we didn't have more to give. So after the service on that Sunday, they called me and Joy to come up front, and they presented us with the food, more than we could get in our car. It still touches me these years later. But I'm here to tell you that God is faithful to His word. He opened the windows of heaven and gave us a blessing so great we couldn't contain it. Just like he promised in Malachi 3:10. So I want you to remember that he always keeps his word. And I want you to think about putting your tithe first, no matter what, that God will bless the rest of your needs. When you take care of him first, it belongs to him, give it back to him. He will take care of what you need. And since you're early in life, you need to make that decision before the crisis comes so that you already have a plan established in your mind that you're going to do what God requires. And he'll be faithful to you.